Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the Rational Investors TRI Crypto Countdown, TRI's Top 100 Crypto Review, and whatever name we want to call it this week. Anyway, kind of a fun crypto show that we do on Wednesdays, and actually, I love the crew that we have here. Derek, Nick, and Ben. Ben tonight actually is taking the day off. I think he said he's at family over the holidays, which I guess makes sense. So he's going to be indisposed, but we have a really special treat tonight. I'm totally stoked. I don't know. Do you have like your Sea Blue? I mean, I don't know what fun name that is on the site, but this we got Chris, who's TRI's show sort of producer director Monday to Friday for the Daily Brief on today on the call here tonight. So. I'm totally stoked. We're gonna have like a totally next level conversation with these guys. I mean, probably half of what they're gonna say is gonna go right over the top of my head. But what the hell? I'm totally stoked, totally excited for this show tonight. And if I understand correctly, well, why don't I introduce them and then let them tell you what we're going to talk about tonight, because it's totally cool. So, first off, let's say hello to our regular crew. At the top of the screen there, I see Nick's right off the bat, ready to go. First thing, you were ready well ahead of the show tonight. Totally awesome to see you on board. How are you doing this evening, Nick?
I'm good, and oddly enough, it's December 15th, and I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm in Minneapolis. So.
Oh, there you go. So there's some global warming for you.
Yeah, it was like 12 degrees yesterday. It was 60 today, and it's going to be like single digits again tomorrow.
Oh, wow. All over the map, eh? That's where you get that freezing rain, eh? That's terrible to drive in.
Yeah, it's going to be real icy tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Good luck, Chief. Drive safe.
I've worked from home for 3 years. I'm good.
Hey, now there's a crypto degen if I ever had one. Right on. Bringing up next in line, we have, of course, I don't know, I can't think of it. What's the do you have a university that you support out of Maryland, Derek?
Well, University of Maryland, but not necessarily.
Is that what's anyway? I'm kind
The
of
Turpins, the Terrapins.
Turpin, all right, the
Turtles.
Turpin. Oh, there we are, the fancy turtles. All right. Anyway, our fancy turtle himself, Derek. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Not I don't mess around no black ice, so I'm glad we're not having weather like Nick up there.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. That's. Interesting. Like Ontario is actually even. I don't know. Is Ontario and Minnesota along the same? The southern Ontario, is that actually? It might be even a bit southern.
Yeah, Toronto's a tiny bit south of Minneapolis.
Yeah. So I grew up in Toronto, Ontario, and oh man, there's a reason why I live on the west coast of Canada, but. Actually coming from actually pretty close to those kind of neighborhood, and that weather. Our guest tonight, as I said, director of our Daily Brief, director producer, and also awesome content provider, Chris Blue. Chris Blue's on the call line. How you doing, Chris?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Are you doing okay?
Doing all right. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry about that. Not as tough just when I'm multitasking.
Okay. Chris, I'm so excited. Now, can you describe, and what was really cool was Nick actually goes, oh, I'd love to have a conversation about this. So, Chris, can you describe what it was that you told us in the Daily Brief today, and the kind of conversation that I think, Nick, you kind of want to have with Chris here tonight?
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research, and I've seen this come across my newsfeed and Twitter screen several times, but TVL, total value locked, in some of these DeFi protocols. I'm an enthusiast when it comes to these things, and I've been fortunate enough to kind of go through level 1 and 2 and 3 of TRI, and I can trade these things. So getting closer to these protocols and these coins and this ecosystem of DeFi has been pretty rewarding, and I've been kind of looking for a way to understand like fundamental value in some of these things. especially with the atmosphere and just how markets kind of move, and being a part of at least one full bear cycle in crypto. And I came across the TVL to market cap ratio, which essentially, from what I gather so far, I've only been looking into this pretty recently, but it kind of gives you a like a price to book kind of evaluation on these DeFi protocols, because you can kind of lock funds in these protocols, gain yield, and so on, and all that's tracked on the blockchain. So TVL kind of comes up. One of the platforms I used to kind of analyze that was, maybe I can share my screen, but
Yeah, that would be sick.
DeFi Llama. Let me get my screen.
Nick's giving you a big nod saying correct, sir. So I'm going to pop us on over here on the screen overhead. There's Chris. I don't know whether you guys want to be on camera. Probably not, eh? So let's see how I set this up so it's change layout. I think that's it. Spotlight. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so look at this. Isn't this so cool? So I'm probably not going to say much. I'm going to try and not talk too much. I want Nick, and feel free to jump in if you have thoughts here. But Chris, tell me what the heck it is I'm looking at here.
Yeah, so this is DeFi Llama. These protocols and platforms have interesting names to them, but DeFi Llama is the site I've been using, trying to get an idea of total value locked in a lot of the major players, and you can kind of see where everybody ranks in the total value locked, grand scheme of things. You can see their market cap to TVL as well, which I am now just actually noticing is here, and I didn't act to calculate that on my own. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the platforms I've been using. I also came across Token Terminal. That's another one, but it doesn't cover as many protocols. Like DeFi Llama is cool because I can like search Terra. I know Fjord and Julian and a lot of TRIers are into Terra, so you can kind of see total value locked in Terra according to this particular platform. But I like to kind of diversify my my feeds and my data resources. So Token Terminal was one of the I guess let's call it a competitor to DeFi Llama, but again doesn't cover half as many. Maybe I've just been kind of starting to look at this rather recently, but it's actually here. I think some information might not be like, yeah, total value locked. That doesn't come up here. So I was kind of making my own little matrix, as you can see here, and kind of just evaluating some of the main names that I am close to, have been eyeing up, and am exposed to essentially across a lot of these different chains, and trying to derive like, what's value, what can I gather from the massive amounts of data that's out there on the chains, and make some, again, FA foundation for just playing in this space. So that's the gist of what I've been working on and kind of looking into. And again, this total value locked is similar to like your price to book ratio.
Yeah, it is. I think it's the closest thing to what a price to book would be. I think there are a couple caveats that I want to point out about it. Could you go back to like the DeFi Llama page?
Yeah.
And then maybe hit the market cap to TVL column, the top of it twice, so it'll sort the other way. Yeah, hit it again. Why is it only showing 6 of them? Okay.
That's probably because I hit Terra.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So like, if we look here, I like organizing them by protocol type. So like decentralized exchanges, I would kind of all lump together. So you had I know you had QuickSwap, and you probably had a couple other dexes on your spreadsheet. Like I would put all of those dexes together, like the QuickSwap, Sushi. Yeah, pretty much your first 4 are all dexes. Pangolin. I would treat them similarly.
I do. Yeah, I completely agree.
I would treat like your borrowing and lending, your Aves together. And the other thing you want to look at is emissions. So like Curve and Convex have 2 of the lowest market cap to TVL ratios in the entire crypto space, but they also have some of the higher emissions in the crypto space. And so that's another thing that I think holds their market cap down, because they are emitting a lot of their own token as well, which can hurt them.
And when I'm fairly new to emission talk, so can you walk me through that? That's kind of a new one for me.
Yeah, so Curve and Convex allow you to essentially earn more Curve and Convex on their platforms. And so they are paying that out in their own token, and there are a lot of decent rates and payouts in that token. So if you're on Curve earning revenue by supplying liquidity, most likely part of that is paid in Curve. And they do both Convex and Curve have their own tokenomics to incentivize you to lock up that Curve and Convex as well. So they do try to balance that out, but I think it is something that has hurt the price over time. I still love both of those protocols, but it's just.
And isn't there some kind of drama with Curve, and isn't there some kind of like Curve war or something like that going on?
There is a Curve war, yes. So Curve is kind of one of the main backbone platforms in DeFi, and it has some of the largest like liquidity pools for trading between like assets. So you're going to have stablecoin pools where you can go from USDC to USDT to DAI to MIM. You'll have like ETH and ST ETH pools, like all these sorts of similar pools that you can get back and forth, and it has huge liquidity. And the Curve token is a governance token, and so every week they vote for which of the pools are going to get the highest percentage of the rewards that they give out every week. And so with that, you end up having people trying to get as much Curve as possible. These different protocols are, so they can vote for their own protocol to be incentivized. And I won't get into it too much, but Convex was essentially created, it seems, as a way to almost take that one level further. And so now Convex, I think, still owns the most Curve, and people who own the Convex token can then participate in governance to vote with their token. So it gets a little convoluted and confusing. But yeah, everyone's trying to get as much Curve and Convex as they can so they can influence the rewards on that platform.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have much exposure to Curve. I think when Curve first came out a year ago, I played around with it, DeFi Summer 2020 and all that. But I think I've moved my funds since then. I'm primarily in Aave, Matic, and the Matic L2 is where I'm kind of chilling at right now with most of my liquidity locked. So it's interesting to hear about this, because I think there's also some drama going on with Sushi and Sushi Swap and whatnot. At least from what Mr. I think Danny from Time Wonderland Finance, whatever it's called, he's trying to get involved with like Sushi and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see like the background stories to some of these protocols and what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that the Sushi thing is definitely very different. But yeah, Danny, I think with a DEX is kind of the last thing in his ecosystem, his personal protocol ecosystem, that they're missing. And so I think he sees a lot of potential synergies between ICE and Spell and Sushi, being able to actually bring, like, Sushi's already mostly, like, they're on a lot of different chains. And so I think he sees an opportunity where he can step in and he can provide some help in both a leadership aspect, but also in partnering closer and integrating with his existing protocols.
Oops. Okay, I don't know what happened here.
No idea. I wonder, Like it would be nice to look at these charts. Like I actually just freeze on that for a moment. Sushi swap, that looks like an M. It looks like it's kind of topping out. I mean, what do you think this sort of sentiment is within the crypto space right now, Nick and Derek? If you feel like adding that, like, have they taken kind of a punch in the nose recently, or are they still just going great guns?
So are you talking sushi in general or crypto?
Well, I mean, this as this as one. I mean, how's Danny doing? I just like you guys obviously have your sort of your ear to the ground, so I'd love to sort of get like sort of how has this recent correction been going for the space?
Sure. So one thing I will point out: this chart is actually TVL. It's not price. So they are emming out, but what essentially means that people are taking liquidity out of the pools, not necessarily that the price is going down. Although sushi's price has
so we're looking at a fundamental metric here, not a price chart.
Correct. This is the total value locked
cute.
on Sushi Swap.
I mean,
That's adorable.
does that kind of tell you what the sentiment is though? It kind of like says.
I mean, it
wonder
can.
if
Sure.
it, yeah.
One other thing though is most of the value locked is going to be a volatile asset. So if the crypto space, if the price is going down, odds are the TVL value will also go down because it's crypto.
Can you overlay the chart of Sushi Swap on top of this, or display it as like an indicator, Chris?
I'll have to play around with that. I don't know.
Okay. Not to put you on the spot or anything.
For that.
Well, okay. I mean, there's a big fat M. I mean, so, Brian and his technical analysis, you saw the sushi, you saw whatever he had on the screen there a moment ago. I mean, I see M. So me as a trader guy, I'm kind of like, things are looking a little heavier. What's going on? So I'm just curious how you guys are as sort of like watching and listening to the sentiment in the space. I don't know. Just tell me a little story. About how you, well, you're not really. Yeah. Okay. Just tell me how you guys are thinking sentiment wise. I'll try and show.
I mean, I kind of think hopes are dashed a little bit. I think everybody was kind of looking for 100K Bitcoin or somewhere up in that region at least, and since this correction, I think people are feeling a little bit down. I mean, you saw Chico Crypto's video, and I mean,
that was heart-wrenching.
It was kind of sad. Yeah, it was kind of sad because I think he has some little bit of a mental health things he's battling with as well. So
he's carrying he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean,
I just go, Mark's gonna do whatever the hell it does. Good luck.
Yeah. But I mean, there's also like other, I think I wasn't really expecting 100K Bitcoin, and personally, my hope isn't really dashed, or I don't feel anything really negative, but I think it's just a correction that probably had to happen, and I think a lot of it, I think because we're still correlated with like the stocks and all that stuff. I think that's a part of it, and so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just par for the course.
I think also, too, the rubber band got a little too stretched there. I mean, good old JP, he gave crypto the green light again today.
Oh, boy.
That's what last time he said, man, crypto, let him have fun. Damn, market just took off like a rocket. So here we go again.
I totally agree with Derek. All I've seen for the last 2 weeks has been extreme caution, a lot of fear. A lot of people sitting out in stables until after this FOMC meeting today that happened. It's not a lot of people are having fun with crypto right now. Let's just put it that way. And so, I mean, the sentiment is really bad. Price action has obviously been very bad for everything except for a handful of tokens.
What's that we're looking on the screen there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been looking at stuff to buy in reload zones. So
that's good.
That's actually what you were looking for, Brian. You got price on the blue line, it looks like, and TVL on the yellow.
That's interesting. So it looks like this TVL indicator is kind of lagging, maybe. And I wonder if the TVL goes to a new high, whether that's some sort of divergence or something. But that's fascinating. So, if I interpret this correctly, the amount of whatever this is being locked in to the network, like I guess like 1 year staking or whatever, that is now, that trend is reversing and it's heading down now. Is that the way we might interpret this?
Yep. Yeah, at least since beginning of December, or I guess you could say even beginning of November, macro wise. Yeah, it's been.
So what
Lord.
was it there in October 12th through October, I guess about November 5th? Like, what happened to cause so many people to go in so hard on this thing?
Wasn't that October?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think part of it was just the market as a whole was going up. And so the value of the TVL was increasing inherently, passively. Because if let's say I put an Ethereum into SushiSwap, that's roughly $4,000 worth of liquidity, or TVL. If Ethereum goes up to 10,000, I now have $10,000 in TVL in the protocol. So I haven't done anything. I haven't pulled out anything or added anything, but the value has gone up.
So TVL is probably a really good sort of metric of, what am I thinking here? I almost want to say like market cap in a way. So.
Well, and I think that's what Chris is trying to get at is if you can find protocols that have a lower market cap and more TVL, is there something fundamental there where they're undervalued?
Well, I would just simply say, why don't we find W's in that TVL indicator? Look at the W that happened there, like middle to the end of September. Like if you just use that as a timing tool, man, that'd be sick. But what does that mean? I mean, it means like the total amount of money going in and the total value of the assets are rising, eh?
Yes, that is what it means. And that's where it gets a little bit hazy and fuzzy, and you really need to dive a little deeper because each protocol, they're going to have different types of
do up, what's another fun one?
Well, like if you take a look at maybe like Avalanche, like that had a nice little run a couple weeks ago, and that there's a kind of what you're saying that there made like a W kind of maybe indicates that something was going on there because that ran up to what, like 140 or $150 or something like that. It's back at 104.
So you could almost think of NAV impetus, right? So when that last chart was so awesome. Oh no, it's where it's going. Oh, it's gone. Oh, there it is. So you can see when that thing W'd out, when that bottom indicator there, when it W'd out and started to break out, and that big bar there, which looks like it's about November 6th or 7th or something like that. I mean, that was a monster buy signal. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I mean, part of it does because, I mean, that's kind of in that area I didn't necessarily, but I know like I started buying Avalanche and like locking some stuff up around the time I saw the price going up, and I started but maybe that was kind of a coincidence of me sort of getting involved in sort of DeFi a little bit more too. But I had to use Avalanche in order to get to utilize their network and then some of their services as well. So which I locked Avalanche with some other tokens. So.
Okay, so then what does this image right now? Because clearly we got big fat M's. We got a falling trend here. What does that tell you that what's going on underneath the surface here?
It definitely seems as though air is being let out of the balloon that is some of these DeFi projects, especially like the euphoria that occurred over the summer, this past summer, coming out of the spring. Even though there was a little bit of a miniature deflation later in the spring, earlier this year. So I see like it's just a bigger deflation come the end of this year, and that's kind of what I'm making out of all this.
And it's actually a good point too, because you said that is total revenue. So that's the money that's actually been on the network that's being spent for all the transactions and stuff, right? That's the sort of what they're generating by network usage.
Correct, I believe.
Be interesting to correlate a LJ setup. So can you see in September 19th, or I guess 20th, that peak in there? And if you drew a trend line on the price, unfortunately it's the blue line, so it's right in behind that token terminal thing. Yeah, like if you drew a trend line off of that and you did an LJ off of that trend line break, the buy signal looks like it comes in somewhere in that October 20th to October 29th kind of rally window. And then remember I said there a moment ago, like you can see when that bottom indicator W'd out there, like this thing was off to the races. So, what is this? So what's this thing telling us right now? Is it telling us just to cool our jets and leave this thing alone until that starts sort of Wing out?
I'd say so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but, that's what I'm trying to suck out of you guys is, like if you draw a trend line off of that blue line off of the peaks now, we got to see a W on the other side of that line before this thing is a buy. And my hunch is when that happens, that bottom indicator is going to really sort of saucer out, and you're going to start to see sort of like, do you see the W in that bottom indicator there? Like the lows from October 28th, 29th, right? Those lows are slightly higher than the previous lows, right? I don't know whether you can see that. You can see the W there, and it makes sense when you look at the blue line and the price action. So that's what we got to wait for this darn market to be a buy again, which scares me.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. I mean, maybe, so, if you are playing this, what is this? This is Avalanche, AVAX. So, answer me this, Nick, because I got a feeling you're the guy who's going to be able to answer this. Why would I expect Avalanche price to go up?
Is there? I don't think Token Terminal has a users graph, but the amount of users on Avalanche is going exponential. Like a month or two ago, they had a couple 100,000 users, and a couple weeks ago they just hit 1 million.
Okay.
And so when you have that many more people onboarding to a network, and it is the token that's used for gas, it is the hot layer one. Like earlier, we've had a couple times this year where Solana just went crazy. Yeah. And that's because people were getting on board. They were making wallets. They were getting into it. They were wanting to buy Solana because that's the ecosystem they're using.
But it sure looks like that topped out a while ago. If you pull up the SOL. Actually, it'd be kind of cool to go back to that other chart and pull up that SOL. Does SOL work on the same logic as this?
Yeah, Avalanche and Solana are very similar.
Yeah, see, now that's fascinating. Really, really tight trend here, right? So it's weird. It's like whatever that histogram indicator, that's the NAV thing or whatever.
This is total revenue that's here right now.
Total revenue. Look how closely that is tracking with that blue line price, eh? That's interesting. Yeah, there you go. Oh, fascinating. Clearly the revenue. Now, I mean, what letter of the alphabet do we see there? These are pretty pictures.
I see Kentucky.
Kentucky? That's a good answer.
But no, I mean, there's obviously some M's there.
That's good. That's a good answer. Good answer. I see Kentucky. Oh, actually, Kentucky. My heart goes out to people from Kentucky right now. Anyway, so do we get bullish of this thing yet? I don't know. Again, and then what's sort of the sentiment? Is that if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a female senator that's all up in arms right now over DeFi?
Yeah, good old Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, she's going to town on that shit, eh? So,
yeah.
How about Luna? Can you do Luna for me? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Nick. Go ahead, please.
No, you're good. I'm not too worried about Warren. She obviously has no idea what she's talking about.
Now, there's an odd-looking chart. What do you make out of that? Suppose there are a lot of different ways to. What's the data that we were looking at? That NAV or TVL? Beg your pardon.
So
TVL.
a lot of these don't have TVL on Token Terminal. So you can see it's grayed out there versus some of the other ones are white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this was the difference I was pointing out earlier, which you can kind of see more information, and I don't know why it does that. you could take the information, I guess, with a grain of salt. I don't know how much you can rely on it, but okay.
So it just seems to me with a lot of this stuff, it's just basically market structure. A rising trend just means growth, higher highs and higher lows. And if you want to apply it to this indicator and these indicators we're looking at tonight, it's basically the same logic, eh?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, I do find it interesting, though, that even Sjord right now is asking, well, do we want to lock in? So in DeFi, does it pay to lock in for longer periods of time? Do you get more added benefit?
Depends on the protocol. Some do, like on Cosmos, on the Osmosis DEX, you'll get a higher rate of return if you essentially you stake it, and you'll say I have an X length unbonding. So you can say I can get it back a day after I want to get it back, a week or 2 weeks, and so you get incentivized to hold it for longer. But then, let's say I wanted to get out my fund, my crypto from Osmosis, I could unbond it today, but it wouldn't actually get back to me for 2 weeks if I had selected that 2 weeks.
Okay, cool. Is there Sjord was telling us, did you watch that presentation on that service where you can throw in bids on Luna on liquidations? What was the name of that again?
Kujira.
Yeah, Kujira, so was that it? Man, I was darn impressed with this. What do you think of this, guys?
I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with it beyond what Sjord kind of mentioned. So, and I don't have a lot of, I guess, I honestly don't have a lot of exposure to Terra, that particular chain, only a little bit. So I haven't really dove into this one.
So there's so many. This ecosystem is so big that you can get lost in any one of these little sort of ecosystems, eh?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. Fascinating. So, Chris, was there anything else you wanted to add to the conversation here tonight? Is that a spreadsheet that maybe we can all work on together on the site? Is there something we can actually screen for with that?
It's a good question. I'll put this out to whoever wants to play around with it. I just put this together this morning. So. And I've just been comparing, data sources and whatnot, seeing if I can infer anything from all this data. But I'll gladly give it to the community, and maybe someone can enhance it a little bit better than what I can, in my opinion.
Cool.
So yeah, I'll throw this in the lounge. But no, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as a subject to talk about, because I like I said, I have heard of this discussed, and I've seen TVL come across my screen multiple times. So I feel like maybe it's something we can use to derive some kind of fundamental assessment from some of these names.
I find it interesting that it's so volatile. It seems to track price so closely. But it was interesting that Sushi Swap, how there was such a divergence there.
Yeah, I think it's just an unfortunate consequence of the fact that for most protocols, most of the TVL is volatile. Something like Curve, it actually, I don't even know now. The vast majority, I think, of TVL on Curve is stablecoins. So you would hopefully not see the volatility to track price as as closely with Curve.
So when you say stable coins, are these coins growing exponentially?
I mean, not necessarily exponentially, but in a Curve pool, you could have USDC and Tether, and they're pooled together. And so if I put in $100, it's going to pretty much be $100 no matter when I look at it. The value of it is not going to increase or decrease. Whereas if I have a pool that's, say, ETH and let's just say Uniswap, and that's a pool, those are both volatile assets. So if the whole crypto market is going up, the value of that's going to go up. So therefore the value of the TVL is going to go up. So it's kind of correlated in some respect.
All right, cool. Well, by all means, if we can, work on this with DB, for sort of a communal project to, because clearly DeFi and this is, I think this is actually where crypto is going. The days of exchange, centralized exchanges, I think they're numbered. I think they really are, this is fascinating to see this develop, and I'm just sort of along for the ride with everybody. So yeah, Wade's giving a big thank you to Chris for coming on and contributing, and of course, great. Nick and Derek are so intelligent with this. Hey, there's there's Nick. I don't know whether you are on YouTube now. I don't know how you took over the screen there. Hey, there's Chris. There's our director coming in from. I don't know. I think that's a nightclub in Florida.
Jersey's finest nightclub. Yes.
There you go. All right. So that's the. Oh yeah, but I suppose we'll go back to a regular screen, and I guess you get the privilege of Ben's vote this week. So let's see how we did coming into this week here. And actually, let's see, how am I going to do this? Okay, I think I have the spreadsheet on. So I'm going to the spreadsheet's on the YouTube page now. So I'm going to change the layout of our Hangout back to what we were doing before. All right, there we are. And I'll put that up there. So yeah, totally cool to have Chris on board. How you doing, Derek? Kind of. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Hey,
good.
there
Yep.
he is. All right, bud.
I'm looking
Awesome.
at my
How are
bad
the-
prediction.
how-
Looking at my bad prediction from last week.
so he's trying to lay low. All right, so what was our predictions? How did we do? Brian and Nick said that it was going to be a scratch week. How did we come out? Well, we're down about $1,000, eh? Not bad. That's pretty close to scratch. I wonder what you call scratch in crypto.
Well, I mean, since we were zeros, I think we can go ahead and say that 1100 was scratch.
There you go.
No, I mean, I think we've always said, like, if it's less than like 3% or so either direction, the zero is good. If it's like somewhere between 3 and 7 or so, or 3 and 10, the ones take it, and then if it's more than 10, the twos would take it.
Okay, well, that sounds good. All right, yeah, well, I can live with that. All right, so rock on. And Derek, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, I got to tell you, man, listen to J Powell going on today. I haven't, I can't remember the last time I heard a Federal Reserve Board governor be that emotionally optimistic about the stock market. I couldn't believe how many times he kept saying how strong the economy was. I've never heard that before. I mean, that's not, first off, the board governor's not really supposed to talk like that, which is going to get us in real trouble down the road. But I think he's made it through the eye of the storm, and we're coming out the other side. And I think, number one, he's got his legacy secure. He got the reappointment, the nomination. I think that this is the strong economy of Donald Trump that we all talked about. And even Trump himself said that, holy moly, this economy is going to be insanely strong. Here it is. This is an incredibly strong economy right now. The data is going to come in over the top. JP, he warned us that, year end, the data was going to be strong anyway. I think the one thing that sort of shocked them a little bit was just the actual ferocity of the buying. And, the consumer went hard on that crisis. And, the problem is that so much of our economy is levered to debt that if you had to shut the economy down, that meant that these small businesses couldn't service the debt. And I'm talking about publicly traded companies like, Russell 2000 companies. Couldn't service the debt, and the whole damn thing was going to collapse. And you saw the collapse in the corporate bond market. I mean, it broke hard. That was resolved with, shouldn't we debate our... No, shut the hell up! And they jammed through a whole bunch of emergency financing, shored up the bond market. And I even heard him today say that he wasn't worried at all about corporate debt. It was perfectly manageable. So I don't think there's any crisis in place. The only crisis right now is just simply this health crisis. And I couldn't believe it. And, maybe it's irresponsible of my country. But we have a national broadcasting station that's basically funded by the government. It's extremely left-leaning. And literally, the only reason why I have it on is because I got this Roku TV, and that feed is fed through the Roku TV, and it's just free on the internet. And I was just sitting listening to it casually, and I couldn't believe it. Every single article was about this, new socialist plan and the sickness, the latest variant of the sickness, and over the top, just intense. Like, you guys think you have it bad in the States. I mean, in Canada, we are getting fed 24/7 the same message, just down your throat. It's incredible how hard it is. So clearly they have marching orders. They've been told to convey a very specific message, and they're doing exactly what they're told. And it makes sense. Socialism. I thought it was interesting that Ray Dalio, what was your guys' take on Ray Dalio's comment today? He actually sees that, democracy itself could actually come into question here over the next 5-10 years. So how does that make you guys feel? Any comments?
Isn't he in China's pockets?
Pardon me?
Isn't he in China's pockets or something like that? Doesn't he?
Ray Dalio? Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know he's a big hedge fund manager. I guess I just want your guys' take, because you're just three typical American dudes. You're just trying to live your life, trying to get ahead. I think, obviously the policies that all these old timers put in place have driven all three of you into the arms of crypto. So that to me speaks loudly. So, like I'm saying, Ray Dalio is sitting here saying the system's about to break and democracy itself may actually come into question. So I'm just curious how you guys are feeling about that.
I mean, I really don't want to get too political, but I feel like we were almost a vice presidential decision away from losing our democracy in January.
All right. Yeah, I suppose.
So I mean, to say that something like that could happen in the next 5 years, sure, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was surprised.
I could say it's definitely being tested.
Yeah.
It's definitely being tested.
Yeah, I might even say my dear leader in my country. It feels as though it's definitely tested. I think that's an excellent way to describe it, Derek. So anyway, I suppose getting political is not really the best thing. My apologies if it was political. I was shocked when I read that, and I was like, wow, holy moly, this is getting real. So, does that, what I found fascinating is I think the banksters, they really like this idea of inflating the economy, inflating the market. And every time JP's been asked about it, he hasn't balked on crypto. And I even heard somebody even try and get him to goad him into sort of saying negative things about crypto. And all I heard him say was, stable coins are an issue. They probably should be regulated like a money market. But that was about it, eh? What did you think?
I think he sees the writing on the wall.
Okay.
I think he sees that the way that our current fiat currency is going, the way that every other past fiat currency has went, it will eventually be devalued enough to where it's not worth using, whether that's in 5 years or 500 years. But when you move to something like crypto that has an immutable, something like Bitcoin, at least, that it cannot be changed. You can't just add 100 million Bitcoin to the supply down the line because you've decided you want to inflate or do quantitative easing or whatever you're going to call it. And so I see that it's a lot harder to screw with the money when it's actually built by algorithms that can't be changed.
Yeah,
well, I think that
I'm sorry.
No, I think that also kind of adds a little bit of control on their end. It allows them more control over the system and how people spend stuff, and if they decide to do social programs with it and kind of direct people's uh, spending in the way that they want to. I mean, eventually with I don't know, they talk about CBDCs and all that stuff, and
You think we're heading towards things like a welfare state kind of thing? Do you think it goes that way? Or do you think the banksters would prefer to keep the capitalist sort of model
oh, I
going?
think for their purpose, they would want to keep the capitalist sort of direction. But I think you talked a little bit about it today, and even in some of the past, past daily briefs, and I think it's the economy's sort of gotten so out of control that they really can't let it fail at this point. Like it would just blow up and,
Yeah.
and kind of just. I mean, they have to sort of keep supporting and keep printing and keep, I think that's really
Always
the only answer at
interesting.
this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they inflated the economy. They're gonna inflate the economy to the point where the old debt numbers don't seem so bad anymore, and they're manageable. And I feel like this is a 1940s, 50s kind of scenario. So, be interesting to see how this plays out. It's a delicate balance, but I was shocked, honestly, today listening to him. And I think what really jumped out at me was as he was talking away there, the market, we have a rule that you don't really trust the first hour of trading after a Fed announcement because, man, there can always be trouble. Anybody who's sort of watching this after the fact. I think most of the people really watching this right now are all TRIers. So I guess just the point that I would make was I was just, as he just kept talking and talking and talking, and the more he talked, the more the US dollar broke down, and the more risk just went parabolic. I mean, it was remarkable that, I mean, number one, what letter of the alphabet do you see right across here? And I mean, as he was talking away, this thing just kept going up and up and up and up and up. I mean, Risk really loved what it heard. And I even put a tweet out to that fact. I couldn't believe. And, that also spilled over to crypto. And then when he was specifically asked about crypto, he didn't say anything negative. He just said, stable coins, I think they need to be regulated. Which, again, and, some of the names, so some of the DeFi names, like he could have specifically come out and said, these DeFi names, there's trouble. I mean, that Elizabeth Warren, she would have loved to heard that. I think Elizabeth Warren's just she's playing to her electoral base. That's what I think she's doing. But what I wanted to show you was this Luna. I couldn't believe it. And this thing, it's sort of like, I think it's one of these names that's in the market sweet spot right now. It's sort of in the limelight. And where the hell's the damn symbol? It's in here somewhere. There it is. I couldn't believe... I wouldn't say this is like, oh my God, it's the end of the world bull. But it was really nice to see that we had this trend line that was working away here. I'm just eyeballing that. It was nice to see us break out and at least break above this level here. So, I mean, my buy signal comes on an actual W on the other side. So we got sort of like the left-hand leg of the W. But I was quite impressed with the size of the rally here. It was pretty darn impressive. So actually, I think that names like this, they're back to sort of like a trading range. Whereas previously, I was getting pretty worried. It's just like, are they just going to rip this thing down and break through these lows? I think we got a little bit of a base to work with here for now. So probably, we're into like a Christmas holiday season market. I will say one thing, and it really, I mean, it was encouraging to see. If we look at other DeFi names, maybe not nearly as enthusiastic of a move. But I suppose you could argue. Actually, I better put the magnet on here. Okay, something like that. So I guess, yeah, same sort of thing. So we broke out. We need to get a W on the other side of this. I actually put a tweet out with regard to Bitcoin. I needed to see a break of its downtrend line and then a W on the other side of that. So now I think we're in the, all right, do we get that W on the other side of the trend line? Let's see if I can show you that tweet. Now, do you guys know of any sort of like, it's interesting how Sjord's excited about Luna. Do you guys know of any upcoming fundamental drivers that could drive price here? With regard to whether it be Luna or how's Danny doing? Is Danny got something up his sleeve here?
So as far as Luna's going, I mean, I think TVL in a way might actually be good with Luna because a lot of the TVL on Luna is UST, which is their stablecoin. And the more UST that's being minted, you're burning Terra or Luna to get it. And so there's just been a huge demand for UST lately, which is one reason it's driving up the price because you need to burn that Luna to get the UST.
All right, and that's the $64,000 question. I listened to an interview recently with Mr. Kwan, and I didn't really like the tone that I heard in the conversation. Sjord was on the call the other day. Sjord was like, "Man, I don't think it was really that bad, Brian." What do you take out all this? Do you think he's gonna get himself into trouble with U.S. regulators here? Do you think he's gonna play ball?
So I listened to that. You're talking about the one like interview where they were talking about like, why don't you care more about America? And he's like, well, I'm not American.
Yeah, that one.
So I actually didn't see it as that big of a deal. I saw it as him saying, like he did say, I do care what goes on in America, but I care what goes on everywhere in the world. Yeah. I think he will play ball. I think he wants to be legit. I just think that he's saying he needs to worry about a lot more than just America.
Okay.
Is what I got out of it.
All right. I guess I sometimes it's things are lost in translation, and I feel as though I hear something that really isn't there. So that's good. Two of you at least. I don't know, Derek. Did you hear all that kind of stuff? What was your impression out of all that?
I didn't actually hear his tone or how he said it, but I mean, okay. I kind of tend to agree with Nick in terms of like if he wants his project to sort of be accepted everywhere, he needs to sort of focus on sort of the greater good and the bigger audience, right? I mean, even though, and I do think he'll. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure what you mean when you say play ball. Like if it's decentralized, then I mean, there's nobody that can.
Well, because we're talking about USDT, right?
UST.
UST. So this is going to become a major stable coin player. So my hunch is that you might see Mr. Kwan actually have to be part of regulatory bodies and the guys that in the money market fund, they have to jump through the hoops with FDIC and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it might go down those roads. So when I heard him kind of like saying, I don't really care about the U.S., it's just sort of like, oh goodness, do we need this? But having said that, what you guys are saying is, don't worry about it, Brian. You're misinterpreting.
I think Derek did actually bring up a good point because UST is an algorithmic decentralized stablecoin. So, I mean, technically, they can't go after someone to shut it down. Doe can just be like, whoop, like, sorry.
I kind of think these guys that are with the projects like him, like that they've made themselves so rich in the past, I don't know, last couple of months or last year. I kind of think they're a little bit arrogant too. I kind of think they really don't care.
Yeah.
I think they're. I mean, so I would say 50-50. He would play ball. Like I don't know if he would be 100%. Because like you said, it's a bit decentralized. He probably feels like he's gotten his he's made his money, right? I mean, even though he might want to, if there's a greater good, maybe he's for that. I mean, Danny kind of talks about the greater good, and I mean, if you believe him or not, I don't know, but at least he's spoken about, what's the saying?
He's a people maxi.
Yeah, a people maxi. So I mean, he threw that out there. He threw that out there, and he seems like he's acting on it at the moment. But I mean, so.
All right, so Brian's tilting at windmills, no big deal. I guess, that same sort of image. I thought this was kind of an interesting study we did last week. I suppose at the end of the show when we come up with our predictions next week, I'll check in with this. But I did get the kind of feeling like we actually went through a bit of a trough and now we're on a bit of an up note. And I got the impression that JP doesn't really want to be sort of like considered the Grinch who stole Christmas kind of idea. So do you kind of feel like maybe he just was like a bit of a cheerleader for things today too? I think I got a little bit of that kind of feeling. So I wonder whether we're going to try and enter into some sort of Santa Claus rally mode. It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. So... that might be in store for us. Do you guys know when do we still follow the, I guess with all this decentralization, do people still trade the forwards markets? Remember when, I don't know whether you guys were in this space when BitMEX was all the rage and Arthur Hayes. Do you guys remember Arthur Hayes?
Yeah, I remember him. I don't know. I mean, I never got involved with any of that, but yeah, I mean, BitMEX was pretty huge at one time, but I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't heard much about it lately. Like, I don't know if it's still a thing.
Do people, and if they were, I guess, did Binance gobble up all that business?
I think overseas, probably FTX got a bunch of it.
Oh, FTX. Yeah, that's one of the big ones. Yeah.
So I think they probably got a bunch of it, and is BitMEX even still open, or is it?
Yeah, man, Arthur just sort of disappeared, eh?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that a lot of those characters from the last cycle, they're gone. Like, where's Roger Ver? Do we hear about Roger Ver anymore? Do you guys even know who Roger Ver is?
Yeah, Bitcoin Cash guy. Yeah, I think he.
Yeah, dude.
I think somebody might have told him to calm down a little bit and just sit down. Like he's gonna mess it up.
I suppose if like those guys, if they had 10,000 Bitcoins lying around, I don't think they have to worry about money anymore, eh? So, but it's interesting. Bcash, I don't think it's really performed that well, has it? I haven't even looked at those kind of names in forever. Bcash. Would you guys have any interest whatsoever in being in BCH? Man, I remember all these things were all the rage.
I personally have zero interest.
Like on Coinbase. Why would somebody be in Bcash here?
If I wanted to actually get in a trade because it looked technically good, sure. But I have no personal interest in holding Bcash.
That's fascinating. There it is. It actually really hasn't participated in this bull market, has it? Fascinating. What do you guys... this is always a fucking powder keg. Here it goes. I gotta do it. Chris... What do you think of dog money? Should we go and buy some dog money here?
No.
No.
I participated in the last run up from dog money, but I'm not really excited about it at this point. I haven't seen anything. Elon's doing his thing and he's accepting, Doge as payment for some merchandise, but that wasn't enough for me to go out and say, hey, maybe I should get some more Doge.
Well, that is a descending wedge, so it'll be interesting. Technically, that should be bullish.
And Elon is priming the pump on that one, so he's starting
you guys
to put his little tweets out there a little bit. So
I got a funny feeling he's up to something.
Maybe around the spring, I might be a little bit more. Doesn't he have a satellite going up in space? Maybe a little bit before then.
Good point.
Maybe a Doge on the side of the car, or maybe a Doge on the side of the craft.
Yeah, maybe it's something like that. Could be. I mean, the interesting thing is now we're actually getting into the point where this stuff's probably getting pretty oversold now, eh? Look at that. Willie actually went stupid there, back on that dump there. So, actually, gee whiz, look at those. Anybody who follows me and my crazy obsession with W's on RSI, look at that. Holy moly. You don't see that every day. Holy, that's remarkable. So, if anything, I was surprised. I was personally surprised at how intensely bearish everybody just got there, like about 2 days ago. You would have thought Bitcoin was back at like fucking 5 Gs or something. I couldn't believe how bearish everybody has turned in this space. So that in itself actually leads me to believe that we're pretty close to some sort of pivot here. And we got another crazy orgy to the upside ahead of us. So, the irony of it all is I don't think, these kind of crazy predictions, they're not off the table as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw something like that. And, who was the guy who said, well, actually, this cycle is, it's probably about 6 months longer than the last cycle. Who was that guy? You guys must know who that is. What's that? Actually, let's check in with those. Oh, Nick's over hanging out on YouTube. No wonder you're not talking in here.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have been saying that. One person I've heard saying that the longest is probably Benjamin Cohen.
Yeah, yep, that's it. Yep, okay, so there's that guy. Yep.
And there's Raoul Powell saying kind of the same thing. I was listening to him the other day, and he thinks that, I think one of his beliefs is that we're going to get more kind of VC money coming in new year, and it's going to sort of extend everything out, and then that's when you're going to see sort of the.
This was supposed to be the Ethereum Bitcoin similarity. So there was the Bitcoin bull, and then I think I took this and overlaid it on the Ethereum chart. Wow, that's actually pretty close, eh? So we could be in like this phase right here and getting ready for some insanity here.
I think we're going to see something like that. Maybe not to that magnitude, but I think we're going to see a huge run up before like the ETH 2.0 merge happens, because that'll be sometime in Q1 or Q2 next year.
So there you go.
And that's the single biggest fundamental Ethereum event I think that's probably ever happened.
And do you have a date on that? What did you say?
Nah, it's sometime Q1 or Q2.
So if we say Q2, that'll end then. So, well, actually, that would make sense, eh? So somewhere up in there. All right. Well, let's keep an eye on that. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
And keep in mind that shortly after the merge, I think everyone who's locked all of their ETH up in ETH 2.0 contracts, they're going to finally get unlocked. So I have a feeling that'll be one of the biggest sell the news events we've seen in a long time.
Oh, that's okay. Well, there you go. So now we have a nice fundamental catalyst to work towards. I like the sound of that. And if that's the case, my hunch is, all the legislation and stuff. I did find it interesting. Like, Powell is so bullish here. I could actually see his whole build back better, the whole Biden stimulus thing. I could see this thing land flat on its face. I couldn't believe how, like I'm telling you, there's going to be a bunch of senators that go, if I go and vote for all this fucking socialism and the economy's booming here, there's no way hell I'm going to get reelected. You know what I mean? They're just going to get run out of Washington on a rail. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, call me crazy. But I couldn't believe how bullish JP was. And I think Biden's whole plan, it is in serious trouble.
Well, I mean, you don't even need many senators. All you need is Joe Manchin to not play ball like he hasn't been, and they're screwed.
Yeah.
So it's just him, one guy.
Yeah.
Has to say no.
Yeah, I tell you, anyway, so interesting how history turns, eh? And every time this damn media goes, hey, so J Powell. Or no, it's Chair Powell. That's it, right? Like, it's so, the American medias, they're so programmed. Chair Powell. I don't know. It kills me. Maybe I'm just dumb. But they all say it exactly the same way. They're like perfectly programmed robots. I remember when he was on there and somebody in the lounge goes, how does it go? you don't see the droids, or you don't have to inspect these droids, right? And it was a reference to the Star Wars. It was perfect.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah. So you saw that reference, right?
I forget who said that in the lounge, but
that was perfect. That was perfectly timed, because that's exactly what he's doing. This isn't the inflation you're looking for. It was just absolutely perfect. Oh, goodness. All right, so anyway, the irony of it all is you go throw this fucking stimulus plan into effect, and the economy's just going to go absolutely insane. And this is exactly what sort of the banksters want, is they're going to see this economy do this. And actually, I tried to... It's funny, people... even somebody on Twitter today, I go... Actually, the plan is pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science what they're doing here. And yet the public just can't believe this. They look at me, and this is like, I used to put out EVU tweets, and the relationship of Venus and Uranus and Earth, and the angular relationship affects the market. And people would look at me like I was crazy. Well, same thing when I do these kind of tweets. People just look at me, and they just okay, there he goes. He's off on some fucking crazy tangent again. And they just can't get it. I don't know why people don't see this. But in essence, this is our future. So you better get used to it. And this is going to be. So, I mean, I don't think you need the stimulus package down in the States. I think that the Obama administration cleaned up the problem. Then the Trump administration set the United States up on a more balanced, fair trading platform, sort of structure, foundation going forward. And now you're seeing the end result. And the only thing that was missing coming out of that fear cycle was they had to somehow deal with this debt problem. They've gone and just gotten a whole bunch of, what was it? I think it was, in fact, actually, didn't they even just raise the debt ceiling another $2 or $3 trillion? So they got all the liquidity that they want, right? So anyway, I
mean, so what's the end game? I mean, you just keep inflating, keep adding to the,
Well, the end game is that we live in a society where politicians are programmed to make promises that they can't keep. So, there was a time when democratically elected politicians had to do things like balance budgets. And it's interesting how on your state level, there are a lot of states where they actually are obligated to balance a budget, so it's just on the federal level down in the states. But I think the federal level is what sort of controls the whole sort of international banking system through this Federal Reserve System. But the point here is that the debt will never be paid back. The bankers don't want you to pay the debt back. The bankers, their whole business model is dependent on that spread between quote-unquote inflation rate and what they charge in fees. And it's usually about 1 or 2% annual rate. But you have to have the system inflating to justify their fees and their fee structure. If prices are falling, then people are going to be like, well, why bother invest? If prices are rising, then okay, I got to invest because I got to, make sure my money sort of keeps up. Which means that I'm going to have to spend fees on the advisor who does the deals, right? Whether it be you're buying a house, all the mortgage, fees that are associated with all that, whether you buy a car, all those kind of fees the whole system is dependent on that spread. All right, does that make sense?
Yes.
So more borrowing, more spending, more fees, happy bankers. And the only thing that can derail it is there a way that the total amount of debt and the debt servicing overwhelms the consumer and overwhelms the government? So I think the only way out of that is when the debt load gets too big, they have to go through one of these hyperinflation cycles where all we're going to do is just add a zero onto the end of everything. But the debt, that debt level, that doesn't change. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
So I think that's what happens. And I think, in centuries and millennia gone by, the way that the banking class justified this business model was encouraging, totalitarian dictatorships, the king, right, to go and invade their neighbors and spend a bunch of money on war, right, and on military and on glory and on raping your next door neighbor and humiliating them and murdering them, eating their babies and all the fun things humans like to do. So I think the banking class for the longest time depended on that. And then we had this funny sort of, industrial revolution, socialist revolution. And I think everything sort of went up in the air when we had this sort of movement towards democratization, the French Revolution, the American Revolution. And I think the banking class was kind of caught off guard for like about 100 years. And they couldn't wrap their head around how to deal with this now new world. And ironically enough, the solution, it turns out that you can either have a totalitarian dictator on one end of the spectrum, and you encourage him to go fight wars that spend a lot of money, and he goes into debt, and boom, you've got that debt cycle system that makes sure that your banking profits continue, right? That makes sense?
Yes. Yep.
What they learned was through the socialist revolution and this whole idea of the plebes actually having rights and being able to vote for their leaders was, if the person who is trying to get elected in leadership talks real to the populace, they can easily be overthrown by the potential politician that makes promises that, how do you hold somebody to account? Everybody's going to get a job. How about how does it go? Chicken in every pot. Who said that? Let's see if anybody knows U.S. history. Chicken in every pot. No? U.S. history.
No idea. I'm going to Google.
Google fireside chat. Anyway, the point of the matter is FDR. I mean, perfect. He was probably one of the new age. They call them New Dealers, right? They are sort of a modern age politician that knew that you could promise the people the sky, and if you play ball with the bankers are perfectly happy with that. The bankers win in a total socialist society because the government spends more money than they bring in taxes. The bankers win in a totalitarian dictatorship because the totalitarian dictatorship goes and borrows money, spends all of the country's GDP on going and beating up their neighbors. So, it's a win-win situation for the bankers, and they just keep perpetuating this cycle over and over and over. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sad, but it makes sense.
Well, good old JC. I find it hilarious that JC technically was one of the nicest humans ever to live. And the only time he ever got angry and the only time he ever got pissed off was in reference to the banksters. How ironic, eh? So there you go.
So, stuff like this, though, does make me a little worried about potentially becoming a welfare state again. What percentage of Americans have any real amount of investments? Not a lot.
Well, this is a great point. So how does this silly cycle work? Fear greed cycle. Does it not make sense that as you millennials are going to get older, you are actually going to be starting to make more money, which means you're going to be starting to save more, which means you're going to be starting to invest more. And in essence, by time you guys get to my age, the market's going to be way up here. you're going to be all loaded up. And the irony of it all is that the percentage of household sort of ownership of equity at that point will be very high. Just as in 2000 right here, the percentage of equity ownership, if I could show you that chart, if Chris, you want to Google that, or anybody, you guys want to Google that, the household percentage ownership of equity, right here, it was like at historic highs. Now it's actually at almost historic lows. So this whole process of you guys going through your life cycle, hitting your peak earnings years, saving for retirement, loading up, it will be the process of shifting that back to you guys are going to be heavily loaded up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just get a little worried because it seems like, and maybe that's just because we are at the end of the fear cycle, but it seems like the prosperity, the dichotomy of prosperity is bigger than it's been in a very, very, very long time between the haves and have-nots.
Well, at the end of these cycles, it would, right?
Yeah.
I remember in 1980, Russia hosted the Olympics. And the Commissars, I remember them, they standing up on the top of the Politburo. I don't know whether you ever remember that. Were you guys alive then? They used to, every year they had their May Day parades, and all the Politburo dudes would stand up on the top of the buildings in Moscow and wave down to the peasants and stuff. I mean, you could argue that was the ultimate personification of centralization of control and power, right? So that was the absolute height of the Soviet Union. That sort of 1979, 1980 Olympics. The Americans were still, embarrassed over things like the hostages, Nixon resignation only 7 or 8 years earlier than that. I mean, the Americans were at the very worst of the cycle, and they felt very depressed. I remember those days. And I think there's a lot of similarity to that now. I might argue that, Mr. Trump balancing sort of the playing field. I would argue, honestly, just this sheer fact that I'm sitting with the three of you, I can see it in your eyes. You're hungry. You want this. There's a whole generation of you guys just ready. You are out there, like the Dannies of the world, right? So, my personal impression is that you're ready to go. I mean, the interesting thing is I think, Derek, you have little ones, don't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, my son's in his 20s now. Just imagine what your life is going to be like when you're at my age and your little ones are Liam's age. Chris, you haven't even started on the journey yet, have you?
Nope.
Right? It's a long fucking journey, I'll tell you that much, butt crackers. There's going to be a lot of magic internet money stories. We're heading into the growth cycle. That's the best part about this. You guys don't even understand. Chapow! It's telling us that this economy is growing like a motherfucker. You guys should grab a hold of the bite and hold on tight. Am I being enough of a cheerleader for you guys?
Right there with you.
I mean, we're in the markets. We'll be there.
The damn straight, banging out doubles the whole damn way. And the great part about it is you guys now have the skill set, right? So you know what a W means. You know what rising volume looks like, right? You know what indicator divergence is. You know what sort of a half decent risk is relative to the size of your portfolio. So you're not going to go do something stupid like, risk the fucking family fortune on something, taking a flyer, That's usually what derails most people, is they just don't understand how to take a risk. So, go figure. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. I see Nick's having a good old conversation over on YouTube. What are you guys talking about over there? So all the lockdown and is like Russia in the 80s. The problem with this silly sickness and all that is I heard the head doctor guy down in the States the other day. I listened to him and he said, it's so tragic that this has all been politicized. He said he can't figure out why this, so, I mean, this is a sickness and you can't fight a virus with politics. So I don't get why this was politicized. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, my son is in the medical system, so I have no choice. We're in the medical system in Canada. I wouldn't even be able to see my son if I didn't have the vaccines and stuff. And I'm not allowed to say that word. So I don't really have much of a choice. I just, I had to do it. But I'm saddened that it's just, the whole thing has gone so political. So I think that's probably where the big problem lies. And it's opening up a can of worms. I even said it on the site recently. I can't help you in that regard. The only thing I can do is I can tell you my opinion, and my opinion doesn't mean jack shit. So please don't be offended with what I just said there. Really, we're all in this PMA. Let's all just try and get through this. Let's try and stay positive. Let's try and help each other out. That's about the only thing I can say with all that. So anyway, back to the market. Let's talk markets.
Adam wanted to look at Curve.
Yeah, okay. So I was trying to pull up some of these, but I don't know whether I can get this on TradingView.
Curve, you definitely can. It's just CRV.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice and easy. So, did we make a conclusion? Are we going to go out and buy a bunch of dog money? I guess not yet, eh? Probably wait a little bit. Curve CRV. Like that?
Yep.
CRV.
And you wanted to look at it on a weekly view.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand from a daily perspective, I'd be like, it's a little bit expensive. From a weekly perspective, then really all you're doing is you're commenting on this big honkin' W up here. So, from that perspective, you can sort of see, okay, so there's nice, sexy structure. Looks like you're getting confirmation. The market really wants to push higher. But if I buy that there on the weekly basis, then that means I have to actually risk against that low. Jesus, that's a long way down. So that's 25 cents all the way up to $4. So in essence, you'd have to take like that little old lady risk management approach, maybe throw like 1, 2, maybe 3% of your portfolio at this thing and let it work. But you have to be able to handle this thing, especially all like that low, that low, that low. If this market does dump, that's where you're going to, all the stop loss orders are going to be. And really the original breakout buy is right there, eh? So, kind of like how you see this thing went running up here and then a whole bunch of back and forth and then all the way right back down to the original breakout level. We've broken out here. We've come back. How far deep do we have to go against all these lows? I don't know. We say good old reload zones. If we go there to there. There to there. So you can see where key support is. That's probably where I'd want to be a buyer if I was going to take a shot down there. From that higher time frame perspective, I don't like this. There's actually a momentum divergence here. That's never good. And actually, we kind of saw that happen on Luna. And I had big breakout, and then the next day it just, I think just in the short term, and interesting how, and actually really I might even go against there. That was actually straight down to Mountain Man level. That's interesting. Bit of an inside bar. You might get a nice little sort of inside bar reversal buy signal here, but it wouldn't really be like a low risk buy. That would be pretty even risk back and forth. So, I mean, what do you make out of that? Too late to be a buyer, I suppose. Coming out of the summer, remember that July pivot there? You can see, and actually I guess it's right down in here, right? Right up through there, especially with all that volume coming in. I like that 3-bar fractal right there. Boom, boom, boom. So that's right there. Interesting how the rally pull back right into that original fractal low level. So that's probably your trade coming out of the summer right there. Then remember we had Bitcoin sort of paused, right? And actually it's interesting. Yeah, September. Remember last time we had a buy signal was right when J Powell said, hey, in October, I don't have a problem with Bitcoin. Boom, up it goes. So you can see how that pivoted there. It's kind of dangerous at 8 and 9s, but nonetheless, I don't know whether it would be a buy signal. I think you'd really want to be long down here. And also, too, this is also a good reiteration of why you want to be long down here. If we go, whoops, there to there, and whoops, darn. There. Reload zones, 61.8, 78.6. Fractal right in there off the weekly chart. I mean, candle body lows for trade location, killer level right down there at that 78.6. I don't think a lot of new people to trading could be able to buy that. That would have been very difficult. But I think on balance, you can sort of see where the buy is. I think that's right in here. Could this be a big head and shoulders top where this has to come back down, right into there, then come all the way back up against here, then back down against there, and then sort of chop like that? Look something like that. I could see that. It wouldn't surprise me.
You can get some pretty decent APYs on Curve too. So if you can pick it up towards the bottom of that range, and then just you almost don't even really care too much as it floats up and down if you can get 50 to 70% APY on it.
Okay, so yeah, I like that, and that's a lot of sort of Sjord's thinking right now. He doesn't really care whether Luna comes down. He would prefer it actually just to calm down and get out of the spotlight, and he'd just collect his crazy APY numbers. So I can understand that logic. If anything, that's probably going to be the saving grace for crypto. And also Farmer Dave on the side. I don't know whether you ever watch Farmer Dave. That's sort of his kind of bread and butter. Is he'll just wait for these things to settle down into reload zones, and then he'll start loading up on them, and he knows which ones to buy. So, you look at the weekly chart. This isn't the kind of name where you're going to go and make a ton of money. I mean, you want to see these look at the W's there, right? Look at this W here. Look at that W there. That's the stuff you want to be looking for. Probably this OBV kind of study in here. I bet there's W's and stuff. And you can see the volume, right? Just rising. Week after week after week. Just keeps rising. One pullback, then rises again, right? 129, 127. So that was a higher volume. Then the next week, you had that insane candle. It's interesting, ended red, but they really tried to bring that back green. And then the next one, look at all this volume. Oh my goodness, holy orgy. Right? And then another breakout way up here. I don't see any M's yet in the volume. As soon as that volume starts M'ing out, then we know the bull is done. So actually, as long as we keep printing higher. So now what's this? 267.08, and that is 276. Uh-oh. So just as I said that, so you got a big old 276, then you got 267. If we got another big green bar here, but it's not higher than this one, that could tell you that the bulls are falling asleep. So be careful. I mean, ironically enough, on this chart, what we really wanted to see was sort of it pull back to the 38.2 and then consolidate higher. So the fact that it came screaming all the way down to Mountain Man, I don't like that. It's not my cup of tea. I would have this is very, I mean, right now, I don't know whether I said this earlier, but right now, what I would say for the time being is there's your trading range. Huge, right? This is like a big diamond pattern. Yeah, hate those. And if we, this bar here actually is going to tell you what the direction in the short term is. So if we lose this inside bar low, that's 320.50. You notice the low on this candle alone is 322.50, so it held. If we can tick back up through this high, then it means we're probably going to explore up into these wicks. If we tick down through this low, then I think the lows are going to be tested in earnest. If we break this low, then that's a massive failure. I'd be really surprised if we did break that. That would be surprising. So I suppose off the dailies, right, what does that sort of capitulation low look like? Oh, yeah. So, you know, Bitcoin and all that, they all sort of have this insane, crazy tail, eh? Notice how we basically come and eaten up this tail. We've left this here, but I wouldn't be surprised if that stays open. You know, you can see that a good chunk of this tail, that tail's still open. You know, that tail. Well, I guess that tail got eaten there. So quite often I'll see that, you know, the little remnants of these things do get left open and it pushes higher. So I could see us push higher. I guess the question really is, what's momentum going to do here? So remember we said off the weekly chart, we really don't want to see the buyers sort of exhaust themselves and disappear. So you can see chunky greens up here, chunky greens here, lower. Remember on the weekly that was lower. Then we got this one way down here. That's not good. Whoa, then we got one down here. So you can kind of see on the daily basis the bulls falling asleep. The reds, the bears, there's that high there, that high there, that high there. Looks like the bears have fallen asleep right on that candle right there. So the bears are asleep, and you can see that kind of tried to wake up. Now, yeah, stay asleep. So the question ultimately here is, do we get a bullish candle less? And I guess this one right here, which I think we got here. Yeah, I think I'm going to say both. Everybody's falling asleep here. We got to wait for somebody to wake up. And that's just going to be, you know, like, higher lows and higher highs, people waking up and, you know, the bull coming back to life.
That's one of the things I've kind of noticed across most of the alts in the space. It seems like they've just kind of bled down on really low volume. And
That's good. That's good. Like I said, I got the impression, man, number one, I don't think the public is nearly involved in this space as they were in 17, 18. I mean, I don't hear Floyd Mayweather's. I don't hear a Steven Seagal's. I don't hear any people like that.
I think they were starting to get in May though. That April-May run up, I feel like there was a lot more there than there is now for sure.
And how has that gone? Do you think when Mr. Gene Simmons is at the cocktail parties and somebody asks him about how his Doge is doing, do you think he talks about it, or do you think maybe he changes the subject pretty quickly?
He asks if they want to see how long his tongue is.
All right, there's that too. So I actually get the impression that, man, a lot of because I was kind of surprised, like Snoop Doggy's supposed to have like the Super Bowl gig and all that kind of stuff, right? But I didn't hear any reference out of him recently about Doge. You wouldn't even think he was even involved in Doge. Have you guys heard him talking about much about it? Chris, what do you think? Have you heard much about him?
I haven't heard much in reference to Doge, at least, coming out of him.
Yeah. So he has been talking about his NFT, though, hasn't he? And I think I did hear other people talking about NFT. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had. I think it sold. I don't know how many ETH it sold for. A couple hundred, I think, or something like that. But
okay.
So yeah, I think it's already done.
And the interesting thing about that is that that's not really the same as the scams like of Steven Seagal and Floyd Mayweather. I mean, those were like ICO, big, raise a bunch of money and fuck a bunch of people over, right?
Yeah, this almost seems like more like celebrities trying to do the crossover to a new medium so they can sort of work their brands, get their brands in the space because somebody's told them that there's some potential here to, have a fan, move their fan base over to this area.
Yeah, and the fans they'll pay up. If You know, well, yeah, I mean, like you see the way girls act with heartthrobs, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, even the I was noticing on the other day. I didn't watch the whole show, but because the shows are long. But on Joe Rogan, they had Beeple, which is one of the NFT guys,
Ah,
NFT artists, one of the more popular ones, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
So he was
And
he
the
was
thing
on.
is with those is it's not like you're buying a $50 million ICO.
Right.
They're like just individual things. Like, okay, somebody paid 50 fucking grand for one of these things. Why? I don't know, but they did. Right? And it's caveat emptor. Everybody looks at it and goes, hey, you paid for it. You got what you paid for, right? I don't know. To me, it almost seems like this NFT stuff is like instant release of liability. They like people are saying, you're buying a Beanie Baby here. Okay, go for it. And the price of Beanie Babies just keeps going up, right? Doesn't that kind of seem like the same thing?
Well, I think the ones that are going to be truly, yes, I agree with you. And I think most of them are going to go to zero or trend towards zero. But I think the ones that are going to be successful are the ones that are going to actually have utility for it. What if Snoop released an NFT where he sold 10 of them? Or, I don't know, does he still tour? Justin Bieber, which another person I know almost nothing about. If he sells 10 NFTs and just, if you own one of these, you get to see him backstage after the show.
Oh, I know.
And then you can, and they can even make it so every time that's resold, Bieber, whoever started it, can get a cut of that resale fee, and you could rent them out. So let's say I'm in Minnesota, Chris is in Jersey, Bieber's going to Jersey. Chris is a huge Bieber head, and so like I could rent it to Chris for $100.
Bieber is just the best.
and so I mean, there's going to be some of these that come out, these social tokens, these social NFTs, where there's actually utility behind it. And I think those are the ones that have a better chance of succeeding.
So what we should do is we should have NFTs that are TRI screener memberships, and people should be able to sell them on the open marketplace. And every time one is sold to another person because they're done with it and they want to get some value out of the membership, TRI gets paid a royalty on that sale.
Yeah, you can set that up.
Yeah, that would be smart. That would be smart. And that's probably the way subscription models will go in the future. So the point being, though, that's not a Steven Seagal $15 million grab of an ICO.
True.
It's like apples and oranges.
That's why I think it's so much more bullish for crypto this cycle, because people are actually trying to get real use cases now.
Yeah.
Where before they just wanted money. Now they want money plus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. In fact, Sebastian, wherever you are out there, you bastard, he built like one of these whole ETH things. He built the whole damn thing and then he's disappeared. Like it's prime time. It's ready for him. This thing's ready for launch. I need you, Sebastian. Come back. Anyway. Oh, by the way, I don't want to bother mentioning it. Okay, so where should we go next? What do you feel like talking? What time is it? Wow, we've been talking for about an hour and a half or so, eh? What do you guys, what do you think we should talk about next? Chris, what's on your mind? You're awfully quiet here.
I think somebody on YouTube requested DOT. Polkadot.
DOT. All right, let's see what we got here. DOT. I'm sure it's
if I'm not mistaken, I think they just went live with their second batch of parachain auctions.
Okay. DOT. There it is. This is on Trex. Probably not the best place. There's Binance. So this is sort of their created proxy. Let's see what we got here. Like here's the problem with a lot of these kind of things is, just it might be an awesome platform. I mean, it might just be the best. Does that necessarily make it a good technical buy? I don't know. I mean, the way I look at something like this is we're starting to get the anecdotal evidence that it is getting washed out. Like momentum-wise is my funny little Williams percentage R, sort of heavily bastardized Williams percentage R indicator that kind of indicates when the moving average gets down oversold that, it's basically washed out. And probably not a good time to be a seller. The only question is it really a good time to be a buyer? And I think you need more anecdotal evidence. If we look at something like RSI, you do see that when the Bollinger Bands squeeze like this is a really, really good tool. Notice how they're sort of compressing in like that. So something clearly is about to happen here. This wasn't the best looking W, but pretty good example of leaving the band, then coming back into the band. Some people will say, well, give me a cross above the moving average. Some people even want to break out on the other side to confirm the momentum. Point here is we love to see that contraction. And actually, I got to get off my butt and do these volatility modules for the course. So no rest for the wicked. So I like it when this kind of action happens to set up a trade. I do not like it when the bands are this far apart to set up a trade. Oh, goodness, that's asking for trouble. It could be really messy. If anything, my RSI, the way that I use RSI is I like to use it in sort of waves. And you have sort of the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. Usually the first wave stops the previous move. So like here, for example, I'll try and go through this as quick as I can. Big up move, up, W is pushing it higher. This M up here, and I color it teal, sort of my first M. That sort of stops the bull. And as long as that's floating out there, you just got to cool your jets. Then this turns into another M. So you got like an M that goes there, breaking down through here. Yuck. Then, and I color that usually yellow. That's sort of like the second push. Then you notice that we're getting more M's. Well, I might even say that this could be an M here, breaking down through here. Usually I like to color the sort of last one in the series. This isn't the best looking M. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't teach a course off of this. I'm just trying to quickly talk you through this. So something like that. So, stops the bull. Bear is in charge. Now the purple one, I actually like to call this the noobs. So on this event, the noobs all go short down here. And then, of course, typically these sort of happen right as the market's going into oversold. You really don't want to sell heading into oversold. And sure enough, what happens? Boom, a new W, which starts the whole process going the other way. So teal, same as this, but now going up. So we've just had a W off of a sort of oversold state that the noobs, of course, were going short, and of course, the noobs are getting crushed. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is a buy, and it doesn't actually even necessarily say that it's bullish. It's just this W here, the teal one, right, in the first one in the series, right, we could put a line up here too. The first one in the series, it sort of stops the previous move. So that's what's going on right now. Now, we might put in another W. Boom. And if that's the case, let's see, we'll quiz YouTube for this. What color would I paint this line? And hint, 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 it's that color! I kind of just gave it away. Anyway, that would be the second W, which would be actually a buy signal, believe it or not. But that hasn't happened. So don't put the cart before the horse. And you can actually see that, we might actually go on M here. And of course, since that was a teal up, and that breaks the bear, that would be a new teal down, which would break this recent sort of bottom, right? And then if we get another M after that, then it'll be another, that would be yellow, and then another after that would be purple, and that would be the noob one, and that's the trap. And it just goes back and forth, back and forth. We can talk our way all the way up, all the way down, all the way up. It's a great way to sort of understand where we are in the cycle of bull bear moves. So with that said, we just had the signal that stopped the recent bear slide. That's cool. But right now we're just sitting waiting for, okay, how is that going to resolve? So, and then remember too, we don't even really want to be hunting a trade with the Bollinger Bands this wide. That's not our ideal trade scenario. Our ideal trade scenario is this scenario where the Bollinger Bands are contracting and volatility is coming out of price. So, with that said, not really looking for a huge move up. If anything, also too on the MACD you can see this. Notice we are making lower lows in price, but we're making higher lows on the MACD histogram. So, we did go through this point right here. So that says, we'll go here, that says this market, and that's a pretty good looking W. You know, like if you were in your grade 3 English class, that's not a bad W. You'd probably get like maybe, I don't know, B, maybe a C minus or C plus, maybe. You know, it's not a bad looking W. And you can see it's been confirmed. Right, we went through there. So we would say that this market is in bullish divergence right now. That's a good sign. I mean, you know, we've got Willie was stupidly oversold. So is that a good time to sell? Probably not. We got a confirmed bullish divergence in price. That's actually not a bad sign at all. We got a little too much volatility. And as I said, the W system, the W's, this first, second, third, it's kind of just sort of saying, okay, at the very best, we've now kind of just established a trading range. And what we'd really like to see here, and this is sort of a rule of our cadence, is you want to first see the divergence in momentum confirmed. This is bull div. But now, what do we want to see? Let's see. Anybody answer that? What do we want to see now?
Structure.
Nice. Good to hear that my co-hosts got this shit down cold. That's good. I was kind of hoping some of you YouTube people, mind you, there's Greg. Nick isn't the only person chatting on YouTube. You're having a great old chat with Wade there, eh? That's awesome. All right, kitchen and craft, correct. Nicely done. So watch what happens, and this is the shitty part about this sort of cadence, because man, you got to be patient as Job. What happens when I change it to a line chart? Oh, is that, are there W's there? Do we have any kind of W working?
No.
No. So interesting too, you know, if we do our trend line kind of thinking, I'm almost thinking, I mean, we'll put it back on the candles. Yeah, this is kind of a funny one, eh? Because the interesting thing is if you ever do get a big rally, you can see that there's going to be a brick wall of resistance right there.
That's almost a double, though.
That makes sense. They're probably setting the trade up. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. So what I would say is that's sort of your ultimate objective. And then the trade probably, my hunch is, probably sets up off of something like that. Can I get a W on the other side of this trend line? Can you see how that works? So that's probably what's going on right now. You know, you got a cute little, unfortunately yesterday's bar kind of made a new low there, right? So that's a nasty looking bar. This tail probably needs to be explored. So we're probably way too early for you to be thinking about, oh my goodness, this is a buy. Yeah, it's got potential L-Tanganator. Like you could probably even just do like 50% retracement. Just if you're thinking L-Tanganator, you just want to make sure that whatever the W is that forms down here, and I think your best bet is to wait for a W. And whatever the W is that forms here, right, ideally you'd like for there to be some sort of support against a previous low. Whatever W that forms down here, well, you really just want to make sure what the L-Tanganator is that box, our risk box, is about half the size of the reward box, right, which is up into there. Just make sure there's that kind of ratio on the trade setup. And that way, you know, if you're right only 50% of the time, but you have a $2 payout and a $1 loss on the trades taken, are you a profitable trader? And you're only right 50% of the time.
You're rich as hell if you do it enough.
Yeah, well, that's the point, right? And actually, a lot of floor traders, they're kind of like, I tell them I'd shoot for 66, and they go, what? Because they're shooting for 55%, but they insist that you're 2-to-1 risk reward. And the problem with the pit traders, of course, is that you can't just sit there and wait a week or a month for the most prettiest formation to form. A lot of times when you're a pit trader, you just got to hit a level and just live with the results, right? So 55%, that's just even slightly better than a coin toss. As long as these boxes look this way, you do fine. I got to get some water. So between the three of you, come up with our conversation next that'll take us into the close. In fact, why don't we do this? Have you got access to the spreadsheet there, Nick?
Yeah.
So maybe you could type in the spreadsheet entries.
Sure, we can do that.
And I'm just going to fill up my water. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Okay, let's start with Ben, which tonight is Chris. Chris, since you haven't been watching a ton of these, essentially you're picking where is the Bitcoin price going to be when we start the show next week. So it's 49,100 when we started this week. If you think it's going to be like way down, like probably 45,000 or less, I'd say a -2. You want to say maybe 45 to 48, I'd say -1. 48 to 50, put a 0, and same thing, couple thousand above 50, put a 1, or if you're really bullish, put a 2.
All right, I think I see how this works.
Are we gonna do like why don't we do a guest host slot here?
We could do that, yeah.
And then that way we can hold Chris feet to the fire. Just kidding. But Chris, what's the big call? And actually, I guess, are we down here now? Are we right on this bottom row here, Nick?
Yep, we're right there. So I got Chris over on column I.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, awesome. Oh, wow. So cool. All right. So what's the call, Chris?
I'll go. I'll be a little optimistic. It's next week falls a little bit before Santa Claus comes to town, so yeah, put me down for a 1.
All right, slightly bullish. Actually, that's a good question that we should probably ask before we head out into the sunset here. Oh, I don't know, 22nd of December. Shall we do a meeting, guys? What do you think? Do you want to get together?
I can. I'm not traveling till Friday. I don't know if Derek can.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good if you want to do it.
Okay, cool. And we'll see if Ben's back. And thank you, Chris, for joining us tonight. Totally awesome.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
All right, Derek. Oh, so Ben, we're gonna say MIA. Mind you, he's supposed to. I thought he said he was gonna put his vote in.
He said he will. He'll probably do it this week before next week. He'll do it Wednesday night right before we meet.
Jerk.
I'm going.
And if he's right, then I don't think he gets away with that. All right, Derek's gonna go slightly bullish.
Yeah, I'm going slightly bullish for the same thing. Same reason Chris is going a little bit bullish there. But Santa Claus is coming to town, and J Powell gave green light.
yeah, J Powell. Holy moly,
J Powell.
And I was actually surprised. Like I even heard some reporters were kind of like they were softballing it for him, like setting him up. Sir, would you like to shit on crypto? And he was like, no, I don't think so. So I was pretty impressed with that. All right, Nick, with that said, are you going to go full on bull here?
I'm not.
No. Damn.
No, so I actually am bullish over the next, 5 months or so. 3 to 5 months.
All right.
But I kind of think everyone right now is thinking, yeah, he gave us the okay, so let's go up. And the market never likes to do what everyone thinks it's going to do. So I think we get one more jab down. I don't know if it's deep or not, but I think I'm just going to put a 0. I think we're going to get a jab down, and then maybe by next week, we're actually coming back up and we're about where we are now. And then I'll probably be a bull after that. So I'm a 0 right now.
All right.
I'm not a perma. If that's to me, I'm not a perma bear. A lot of those negative ones were psyops.
Yeah, right. So this is the danger of looking back, at data, just pure raw data later on, is you don't have the context. It just looks like you are just hate.
It does look like I was a perma bear. I know.
So
I'm like the most internally bullish person in crypto in the world. I think it's going to eat every industry, but yeah, I don't know.
All right. Okay, so, and then what the hell is the Beamish going to vote? The Beamish is going to vote, and actually, I was really happy with this sine wave. So it really helped me sort of see I sort of kept my cool through all this because I just felt like we were going to swing back. I don't know whether this is actually our path, but this does support some uppy.
It's the very top of that wave when we meet next.
Yeah, I guess so. Like what I'll probably do is let's go like this, and then let's go like this, and let's go like that. So we'll go like that. So actually, it's even a little bit beyond. But I wonder. I kind of like your thinking that we're gonna push up through here, and then we're gonna sort of settle back in something like that. I don't know. I kind of like your 0, I think actually the market's settled into a bit of a range. Interesting to see what Sjord's like. I don't think we get the big move in this market until these bands really settle down. Sort of, Then it's so cool when these things compress. Have you guys seen this on the site? It's so cool when Sjord sees this and points it out. I don't know why I have all this gobbledygook in here. Sorry, but anyway, I think they're just too wide. Lots of volatility. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think any serious trend. So with that said, I think I'm gonna go with. I think I like that 0 number. I think I'm just gonna settle in and just say we're probably. And what I did, I was filling up my water glass when you said that. So 0 vote is what, plus 1,000 or 2 on either side?
Yeah, that's what I just.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's funny. I made sort of a prognostication that I really like the big fat round number, and in a weird sort of way, I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Is we're just going to oscillate around 50 G's for a while here. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So. Anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, cool. So we've placed our bets, our prognostications, I guess. Had a lot of fun talking with you guys tonight. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to mention, or anything that you got any special gig? You were appearing in the Holiday Inn out by the Minneapolis airport through the weekend, aren't you, Nick?
I try not to leave my house at all. But...
that's the Airbnb.
I am at an Airbnb, yeah, in Minneapolis.
So must be a pretty nice place. All right. Well, anyway, that was a joke. Did you guys ever? I guess they don't really have late night talk shows anymore, right? But the talk show host would go down the line of all the people he had on the show, and these various comics would be appearing at different venues around the country, and it gave them the opportunity to shill the venue. So that's what I was going for.
They do. I just don't think many people watch them anymore.
Well, yeah,
they still got all the old time slots, but instead of like a Letterman or a Leno or even a Conan O'Brien, you got your Jimmy Kimmels and Jimmy Fallons. And
actually, that's a good point. I haven't subscribed to cable TV in forever. So, man, it's been a long time since I watched that real TV, like television networks. That'd be interesting. So, Chris, any closing thoughts out of you? Our special guest tonight?
I don't have much. Mind your stops and be careful out there.
Okay. All right, and that brings us to Derek. Derek, what do you think? Any wise words of wisdom? I suppose we'll meet one time before Christmas, so I guess we're not going to wish happy Merry Christmases and stuff. But I don't know, anything on your mind that you want to leave these good people with? Some wisdom?
Nothing in particular. Just don't take no wooden nickels.
Don't take no wooden nickels. All
Don't
right,
take no
there
wooden
it is.
nickels.
What's that? Sorry?
That's what I said. No, don't take no wooden nickels.
There you go. All right, so sage word of advice. A couple minutes past 8 o'clock, somebody is suggesting that dog money might be along those lines. Maybe. But hey, you can buy Tesla merchandise with Doge, so what the hell, it must be worth something. All right, everybody, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for a great episode. Really cool conversation to start off with understanding, what was that metric again?
TVL, total value locked.
TVL, total value locked. And it was great having Chris on the call here tonight to fill in Ben's shoes. Made for a really enjoyable experience. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, so, well, I guess actually, why don't we have Chris take us on out of here? The only thing left for us to say tonight is...
Bye for now.